my name is Siti Shazwani. My metric number is A181479. I like this course because I love the way Dr. Shukri explained to us about Malaysian economy. He explained very clearly and tried his best to make us understand this course easily. What I like the most is about the history of the development of the Malaysian economy from the pre-colonization period until today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nurul Shazwani binti Saiful Anwar and metric numbers A181021. What I have learned in this course is the history and transformation of the Malaysia economy, population and labour force, the three sectors of the economy, COVID-19 and the Malaysian economy. Next, the topic that I like the most is the third sector of the economy, because from this I've learned a lot of services that exist in Malaysia.
Hi, I'm Nur Atira Zahra Binti Roslan and my metric number is A180881. From this class, I have learned the history of economy Malaysia. What I like about this class is the presentation assignment because I get to know where I can get the right data from the right source such as Department of Statistics Malaysia, DOSM.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Asma binti Muhammad Sa and my metric number is A181389. From this class, I learned about the transformation of Malaysia economy since pre-independence until today, and what I love about this class also because Dr. Shukri exposes us on where we can get the economic data and how to understand it. I hope I can use all the knowledge that I acquire from this class to benefit others in my future career. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Sunashri Izzati binti Zulkifli. My metric number is A181110. So from this course, I did learn a lot about the Malaysian economy, especially the transformation part. And what I like about this course is that Dr. Shukri revealed to us how to get the real-time data despite it is not included in the syllabus. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hafiza and what I have learned is the place or sources from me to get the right information about the economy of country as in the website of DOSM, MITI and others. And next, what I love is that every beginning and end of this class, Doctor will do a photo session and from there I can get acquainted and can see friends even in virtual.
Assalamualaikum and hi, my name is Nur Khairunisa binti Rahmat, metric number A181539. I learned something new from this course, which is topic middle income trap. With the explanation from my friends and Dr. Shukri, I managed to know what is middle income trap is. Thank you.
I am Nur Anis Afina binti Azman with matrix number A181233. So basically, I like this course because I was exposed to trusted sources like DOSM to get clear and accurate data. Besides that, I also like the teaching method from Dr. Shukri because he is very clear and detailed in explaining any issue regarding Malaysian economy.
Hello, my name is Pang Leng Kai. From this class, I had learned about our government try their best strategies to accelerate our Malaysian economy growth. And what I like about this class is the three sectors, which are primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. This is because these three sectors play their own role in Malaysian economy.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Siti Shazwani from Group 5 Set 1. Our group will present COVID-19 and Malaysian economy.
So this is the list of our group members.
Hi, my name is Siti Shazwani. My metric number is A181479. So first, when COVID-19 was detected in Malaysia, it was on 25th of January 2020. First case in Malaysia were confirmed among travellers from China in Johor. Next is how COVID-19 was detected in Malaysia. The chronology started on 24th of January 2020. There were 8 Chinese nationals who were quarantined at a hotel in Johor Bahru after coming into contact with an infected person in neighbouring Singapore. Despite early reports of them testing negative for the virus, 3 of them were confirmed to be infected on the next day, on 25th of January 2020, and subsequently quarantined at Sungai Buloh Hospital. Then, the Malaysian Health Ministry started to publish guidelines on the virus and establish designated hospital in each of Malaysia's states to manage any positive cases. The Malaysian public were also reminded by local authorities to take precautionary measures in the wake of virus threat, with those travelling to China have been advised to stay away from animal farms and markets in the country and not to eat raw or semi-cooked meats. So that's how COVID-19 was detected in Malaysia.
I'm going going to explain about the immediate measure by government and the first MCO. The immediate measures by government is to break the link of COVID-19. The Malaysia government imposed a movement control order on March 18, 2020. The hashtag Stay Home was widely disseminated by the media. Non-governmental groups and jail prisoners began to manufacture personal protection equipment for frontliners. Several groups held fundraising activities to supply necessities mostly to hospitals. A temporary hospital was established and cooperation with healthcare service providers were authorized while new laboratories were allocated to strengthen the Ministry of Health capacities. Next is the MCO and the Standard Operation Procedure. The Malaysia Government Movement Control Order, commonly referred to as MCO or PKP, is a series of national isolation and lockdown measures implemented by the Malaysian federal government in response to the COVID-19 pandemic that has occurred in the country starting March 18, 2020. The international media is often referred as lockdown. MCO measures include restriction on movement, gatherings, and international travel, and orders the closure of businesses, industries, governments, and educational institutions to curb the spread of the virus SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19. So here is the SOP. The first one is general prohibition of mass movement and gatherings across the country. Second, sanction covering all Malaysians travelling abroad. Third, restrictions on the entry of all tourists and foreign visitors into the country. Fourth, closure of all kindergarten, government and private schools. Fifth, closure of all public and private higher education institution IPT and skills training institute nationwide. The last one is closure of all government and private premises except those involved in essential services.
According to the graph, Malaysia COVID-19 cases start with 7 cases on 3 March 2020 and keep increasing until 30 January 2021, recorded 5,728 cases. The cases slowly dropped at 1,275 cases on 26 March 2021 and increased back with 9,020 cases on 29 May 2021. After that, the cases decreased to the 4,743 cases on 22 June 2021, the cases increasing drastically with the highest recorded cases, which is 24,599 cases on 26 August 2021. Malaysia had a record high of 13,754 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 on September 23, 2021, a slight decrease from the previous date. Over the last week, Malaysia has seen an all-time high number of cases. As a result, the country is distributing over 400,000 COVID-19 vaccine to its citizens on a daily basis. Malaysia is one of more than 200 countries and territories currently dealing with the novel coronavirus. These are the measures taken by the government during the pandemic. The first point is the MySejahtera app was launched by former Health Minister Adham Baba on 20 April 2020. This app is available on the gallery of Malaysian government mobile application, Apple App Store, Google Play and the Huawei App Gallery. This app was developed to track people's movement during this pandemic. Second point is government provide SOP guidelines during MCO, which is wearing a mask, sanitizing hand and social distancing while doing outdoor activities. The third point, the lockdown stage is different to a certain state due to the number of cases. Next is, even foreigners are allowed to get a vaccination in Malaysia. Lastly, using data and statistics of COVID-19 cases, government actually spreading awareness about COVID-19. Social media and mass media can be the right platform.
Of COVID-19 on the Malaysian economy. The impacts of COVID-19 on Malaysia's economy can be seen via high unemployment rate. In 2019, the unemployment rate of Malaysia is 3.3%, and when COVID-19 hit our country, the rate of unemployment increased until May of 2020. This is not a good phenomenon because there is a negative trend in the labor demand. For the agriculture, the COVID-19 pandemic has checked the resilience of the agriculture sector, especially the Malaysian paddy industry, as country imports 30% of its overall consumption from different parts of the world. The real price of rice triplicating for the consumers, which was alarming for nations in this pandemic situation. In the beginning of 2020, tourist arrival to Malaysia decreased to 1.4% and further dropped to 35.5% in February 2020 compared to the same months of the previous year. This has greatly affected the tourism sector, including shopping expenditure, especially for those retailers who were dependent on foreign tourists. Retail Group Malaysia (RGM) has reported that quite a number of retailers which operated at tourist spots as well as island area reported that their sales has dropped about 80% since January 2020. Lastly, even though we are in this pandemic, the telecommunication, computer and information sector still show a good progress because most of sector cannot operate physically and only can work from home, especially when the government of Malaysia initiated the movement control order.
Okay, the first is Prihatin Package, which is stand for Package Rangsangan Ekonomi Prihatin Rakyat, was introduced in 27 March 2020 and required 230 billion ringgit Malaysia. This package was focused on protecting rakyat, supporting businesses and strengthening economy, which is include of Bantuan Prihatin Nasional, which subsidy, automatic 6-month loan moratorium, EPFI Lestari, cash aid for government severance and pensioners, SME soft loans funds and corporate loan guarantees. Okay, next is Prihatin PKS Plus was introduced on 6 April 2020 and requires 10 billion ringgit Malaysia and focus on supporting businesses, especially for SME, which is Prihatin Special Grant for Micro SME and additional wage subsidy. Next, for Penjana, which is stand for Pelanjana Semula Ekonomi Negara, was introduced on 5th June 2020 and requires 35 billion ringgit Malaysia. This package focuses on empowering rakyat, propelling businesses and stimulating economy. And this, among other measures, is extension of wage subsidy, reskilling fund, one-off support to vulnerable groups, financing and liquidity support, e-commerce incentive and tax exemption measures. Next is for the Kita Prihatin Package, which is introduced on 30th September 2020 and required 10 billion ringgit Malaysia. This package focuses for supporting micro SME, local workers and people. Among other measures is Prihatin Special Grant for Micro SME, Wages Subsidy 2.0 and Bantuan Prihatin 2.0.
I will explain about the Perma package. So the Perma package valued at 15 billion was launched by the government on January 18, aimed at providing vital support to businesses and general public who may be affected by the new lockdown measure, with a total of 22 initiatives, most notably the National COVID-19 Immunization Program (NIP) and relevant healthcare measures to combat the pandemic. So next one is Pemekasan. Pemekasan package valued at 20 billion, of which 11 billion constitute a direct fiscal injection, was introduced 2 months after Perma on March 17. It focuses on 20 strategic initiatives to boost economic growth, support businesses and continue targeted assistance to the people and sector as states begin to transition into Conditional Movement Order CMCO. The next one is Pemekasan Plus. So the government revealed 40 billion Pemekasan Plus package on May 31 as a response to another total lockdown measure which were enforced from June 1. This package includes 5 billion direct fiscal injection with 3 main objectives. The first one is to increase the capacity of the public healthcare system to continue. Second one is to continue the Prihatin Rakyat agenda, and the last one is to support business continuity. So the latest economic stimulus package announced on June 28 is the second largest package after Prihatin, valued at 150 billion and involves a fiscal injection of 10 billion. So Pemuli aims to provide support to businesses, sustain previous and aid initiatives, expedite the vaccination rollout as well as complement programs to put the country back on the track under the National Recovery Plan (NRP).
There are 3 economic businesses that are adversely affected by COVID-19 in Malaysia. Firstly, the retail business has experienced a slow decline, especially for those who follow strict SOP. For example, the retail sector saw its worst performance since Asian financial crisis in 1998, with the fashion and apparel subsector registering the worst decline, followed by the department store due to the travel restriction, including domestic tourism and work from home adoption that reduced shopping traffic, has caused 30% of malls to close since March 2020, leaving approximately 300,000 personnel jobless. Next, the creative industry also has been paralyzed by lockdown, specifically from visual arts to live performance. It's because most medium of art function by connecting the audience to the artwork or artist in the same location that usually involves social interaction. But in the most recent restriction, even filming and recording activities are disallowed until phase 3 of the National Recovery Plan, pushing the industry to the brink. Lastly, the weak demand due to the restriction has left the tourism and travel industry severely impacted. Thus, AirAsia has retrenched 2,400 employees and is flying only 8% of its Malaysian routes, whereas Malaysia Airlines has left over 13,000 employees on unpaid leave. Besides that, Malaysian Association of Hotels have claimed that MCO 3.0 has left 61.13% of workers on unpaid leave. According to the Malaysian Association of Hotels, only 70% of hotels are still operational with average occupancy rates below 20%. Overall, aviation has lost 13 billion ringgit in 2020, while hotels have lost 11.3 billion ringgit since 2020 without any clear sign of recovery.
Okay, now I will explain about types of economic activities or business benefits from the pandemic and why. There are 5 essential economic sectors allowed to operate in Malaysia, which is manufacturing, construction, services, trade and distribution, and plantations. As you can see, I give one example in services, which is growth in e-commerce. Malaysia's e-commerce market grew by 24.7% in 2020. For online sales in Malaysia, also up to 1939% in 2020. And Lazada Malaysia also increased sales in 2020. So the alternative form of shopping became an essential service during COVID-19, and the industry grew so rapidly that is now the source of new employment as freelance drivers or riders for those who lost their job. There are changes in technologies during COVID-19 in Malaysia, such as in SMS and instant message. For example, we got a message from Majlis Keselamatan Negara every day about awareness COVID-19 in Malaysia, social media and online search, wearables and sensors, digital diagnostics and genomics, visualization tools. For example, we got a picture about positive cases in Malaysia. And then computer vision, smartphone apps like MySejahtera, security and privacy preserving technologies, and lastly, machine learning and natural language processing.
The National Recovery Plan must be deal with COVID-19 transmissions among the community based on the number of daily COVID-19 infections, capability of public healthcare system based on the bed utilization rate in intensive care unit ICU wards, and how much of the population is protected against COVID-19 based on the percentage that has received 2 doses of vaccine. How long COVID-19 will be with us? We are going to have to live with it. We are going to have a constant vaccination, and we are constantly going to have a very sophisticated molecular surveillance program to keep track of how this virus is evolving. And will Malaysia succeed? Malaysia will never win the war against COVID-19 if the people are not afraid about this COVID-19 and our government, since to regret the AMSMO failure of the emergency proclamation as the weapon against COVID-19. What are needed to success? leadership, flexibility, and adaptability, creativity and innovation, and critical thinking. Last, what is going to be like after the COVID-19 pandemic? First, disruption will accelerate and politics will become more turbulent, pandemic habits will persist, and finally, its crisis will create opportunities. Thank you, everyone. This is all from me. Thank you.
So that's all from us, Group 5, Set 1. Thank you for your attention.